Khatyn State Memorial Complex. The tragedy of Khaytn. You will not find this small Belarusian village on any of the most detailed geographic map today. It was destroyed by German fascists in spring in 1943. The massacre occurred on March 22, 1943. Brutal fascists rushed into the village and encircled it. The inhabitants of the village did not know anything about the fact that in the morning a fascist motor convoy was attacked by fire on a motorway just 6 kilometers away from Khaytn. As a result, a German officer was killed. The inhabitants of Khaytn were innocent, however their death sentence had already been pronounced. All of them, young and old, women and kids, were driven from their houses out into the shed. The fascists roused the sick from their beds with rifle butts. They had mercy neither for the old nor for women with infants in their arms. The family of Joseph and Anna Barnowski with their 9 children was among them. So were Alex and Alexandra Novitsky with their 7 children. Similarly, there were 7 kids in the family of Kozimir and Elena Iutko. The youngest boy was only 1 year old. Vera Yaskevich was also driven into the shed with her 7-week-old son Tolik. Little Lena Yaskevich first tried to hide in the farmstead, but then decided to take safe shelter in the wood. Fascists' bullets were not able to catch up with the running girl, therefore one of the fascists rushed to her and, having overtaken, killed the girl before the very eyes of her father, who was distraught with grief. Among the perished there were also 2 people from other villages who by chance found themselves in Khaytn at the time. These were Anton Kunkevich from the village of Yurkovichi and Kristina Slonskaya from the village of Kameno. None of the adults managed to escape. Only 3 kids, Volodya Yaskevich, his sister Sonia, and another boy Sasha Helikovich by name, were able to hide from the fascists. When all people were finally in the shed, the door was locked and the Nazis covered the shed with straw, spilt benzene over and set fire to it. In a moment the wooden shed was ablaze. The children were crying and suffocating in the smoke. The adults were trying to rescue them. The doors of the shed could not bear the force and the pressure of the dozens of people, and so they crashed down. Horror-stricken people in their burning clothes took to heels. But the fascists with their machine guns dispassionately killed those who tried to escape from the flames of fire. 149 people, including 75 children under age, were burned alive. The youngest baby was only 7 weeks old. The village was then looted and burned to the ground. The girls from 2 different families, Maria Fedorovich and Yulia Klimovich, were saved by miracle. They managed to leave the shed and crawl to the nearby wood. Half dead or half alive, all burned, they were found by the inhabitants of the village of Korostany of the Kameno Village Council. Unfortunately, this village was later also burned to the ground and the 2 girls were killed. In the village of Khaytn only 2 children survived. They are a 7-year-old Viktor Helipovich and a 12-year-old Anton Barnowski. A young woman, Anna Helipovich by name, was also in the shed. Together with some other horror-stricken people in their burning clothes, she tried to leave the shed, which was ablaze. She was firmly holding her son Visha's hand. A moment later she was fatally wounded, and as she was falling down on the ground she covered the son with her body. The child was wounded in his arm. He lay on the ground under his mother's corpse till the Nazis finally left the village. Anton Barnowski was also wounded in his leg by an explosive bullet. And so the fascists mistook him for a dead boy. Inhabitants of neighboring villages picked up all those injured and severely burnt children and brought them to an orphanage in a small town of Pleshenitsy, where they were raised after the war. The only adult witness to the Khaytn massacre, a 56-year-old village smith Joseph Kaminsky, also wounded and burnt, recovered consciousness late at night when the fascists were already gone. He had to suffer a hard blow, though. He found his injured son among the corpses of the fellow villagers. The boy was fatally wounded in the abdomen and totally burnt. He died later in the arms of his father. And so the only sculpture of the Khatyn Memorial Complex, The Unconquered Man, was based on this tragic story in the life of Joseph Kaminsky. The tragedy of Khaytn is not just an occasional episode of this war. It is one of the 1,000 facts which testify to the existence of the targeted genocide policy regarding the population of Belarus. And the Nazis were pursuing this policy during all those years of German occupation. Hundreds of similar disasters occurred within the 3 years, 1941, 1944, of the occupation of the Belarusian land. Only 6 people are recognized as witnesses to the tragedy of Khatyn. They are 5 children and an only adult. Yaskevich Vladimir Antonovich, born in 1930 in the village of Khaytn, died in 2008. Yaskevich Feokina Sofia Antonovna, born in 1934 in the village of Khaytn. Selakovich Viktor Andreevich, born in 1934 in the village of Khaytn. Selakovich Alexander Petrovich, born in 1930 in the village of Khaytn, died in 1994. Barnovsky Anton Iosifovich, born in 1930 in the village of Khaytn, died tragically in 1969. Kaminsky Iosif Iosifovich, born in 1887, died in 1973. Approved by the Executive Committee of the Regional Council of the Working Delegates on May 26, 1969. A monument which was on the place of the grave of the people of Khaytn before 1964. I. Kaminsky by the monument grieving mother erected in Khaytn in 1964. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of Belarus made a decision in January 1966 to build a memorial complex Khaytn in memory of the 100 of Belarusian villages destroyed by Nazis during the years of the Second World War, and also in memory of the great tribute and numerous lives sacrificed for the victory by Belarusians. In March 1967, a tender for preparing the material for the complex was announced. The group of the following architects won it: Y. Gradov, V. Zankovich, L. Levin and sculptor S. Selikanov, people's artist of the BSSR. We were absorbed in work, Leonid Levin remembers. We came up with the idea of putting bases of frameworks at the place of houses and of making obelisks in the form of chimneys, but something was still missing. The field overgrown with grass which was witness to the tragedy kept dead silence. And suddenly in this pinching silence a lark sang. Sound. We must have sound here. And so the idea for bells was born. The whole country contributed to the collecting of building material. Granite was brought from open pits in Ukraine. White marble was brought from Russia. The first part of the complex was opened in 1968. The final opening ceremony was held on June 5, 1969. The solemn mourning ceremony started in Minsk. Representatives of all districts gathered in Victory Square. There were veterans of the Great Patriotic War, Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian, Moldavian and other delegations. There were foreign guests as well. A torch was lit from the eternal fire and then it was brought to the cup placed on an armored troop carrier. It was later escorted to Khaytn.
Can you stick it all over where it's brown? Oh, you stick it where it's brown and it greens it up really fast. Inside here.
Собаку приедет, собака. Простите.
Собака нет.
Thank you.